Hi, I'm Dave Epstein. Welcome to this edition of Growing Wisdom, and we're talking about tools today. You know, tools are a very important part of gardening, and if you have the right tools, it makes gardening a lot easier. I have some long-handled garden tools here. We've got a Stirrup Hoe, we've got a Collinear hoe, and a Trapezoid Hoe, and these are just different tools to use for different applications in the garden. Now, why long-handled? You probably are used to seeing some of the shorter handles. Maybe they're 6 or 7 inches or 8 inches long. These help because you don't have to get down on your hands and knees. You can actually stand up. So if you are somebody with a bad back or you're trying to save your back, the longer handles are much better. If you think about raking your leaves, we don't get down on our hands and knees and start raking leaves in the fall. We have long-handled rakes. So if you use long-handled garden tools to weed and to aerate the soil, it's just ergonomically much better. The great thing about the long-handed garden tools is that you can really get in and do what you need to do in your garden in small spaces. So for example, if I need to get in the garden, you know, I don't have to bend down. It's very similar motion to what you'd use sort of with a rake. But look how I can get right around, right in there with these long-handed tools. And depending on the type of tool you use, so this is a Collinear hoe. It's great because you don't have to bend down. And that's just it's such an advantage to be able to use tools where you don't have to get down on your hands and knees. Get right in around the S-scroll. Just really get those weeds out. Sort of a push-pull motion. So the other type of hoe that's really cool is the Stirrup Hoe. And what this does is it basically just cuts these weeds right down. So here you can just cut those weeds right at the throat. So we were in the garden earlier, and now this area, I call it my Zen garden, and what happens to this is the weeds start coming through. Actually, some of the plants start growing back through. So if you take something like a Stirrup Hoe, you can actually, on the push and the pull motion, it's really fast. So look at this little area here. See how the weeds and this is actually sweet woodruff. See how it's come out into the garden? I don't want that there. So I can basically just go like this along the edge of the garden, and I can instantly get rid of what I need to. Now, I don't even have to clean it up. I can just leave it and it'll eventually just die and go into compost. Or of course I can clean it up. But you can see, like here's some clover right down here. So, you know, I could do this, bend down, but the problem is that, you know, I'm out in the garden all day. Boom, done. Here we have some more, got some jewelweed here underneath the tree. Now this would be a hard place for me to get. So this is a weeping pussy willow that I have here. And again, it's just starting to look messy, but really quickly, I can just get under here and take care of the weeds, which have kind of taken over the area. And I can actually stay pretty upright. And that's, for me, that's the key. So sticking here with the long-handled garden tools, this is a Trapezoid Hoe. And again, this is nice because you can really get in some of those tougher spaces by standing up. And you just kind of use the hoe, get those weeds out of there. So we're weeding around these knockout roses here. And big back saver. I mean, this is really, the theme of this is that you're not down on the ground. And so you have some different tools that can get into tight spaces. Now this is, you know, a perennial garden here. Let's go over to the vegetable garden. So I'll show you here in the vegetable garden how easy this is. So here's a couple of rows of onions, and this is tight. So this would be very difficult for me to get into. I have a very limited space in the garden, but using one of these tools, I can get right in between the row of onions 2 rows here. Just get these weeds out. The other thing you're doing is you're aerating the soil. Now, if you're someone that does some mid-season feeding, perhaps you're side dressing your vegetables, you could put down the side dressing and then also work it into the soil that way. Get some more weeds back here. So even this little area here, you know, that's tough for me to get down on my hands and knees, but look at that nice weed we got up. So I was able to do that without ever having to get down on my hands and knees. So long-handled garden tools are definitely something you want to incorporate into your repertoire wherever you get them. It's a good idea to get a couple of different shapes for different uses. If you have a really tight space, then a smaller blade would be better. If you have a bigger garden, perhaps you want a little bigger blade. So I got these long-handed garden tools from Johnny Selected Seeds. You can get your tools any garden center. You know, you can go online, you can find them, and there's plenty of places out there that have them. But these came from Johnny's. Come back every week for all of our tips, hints, and helps at Growing Wisdom.